Welcome to Finding Certainty with your host and U.S. Army veteran, Patrick Laing. Over the next hour, you'll learn from Patrick and his expert guests how to attract more certainty into your business and your life. Now, here is your host, Patrick Laing. Welcome to Finding Certainty with your host and U.S. Army veteran, Patrick Laing. Over the next hour, you'll learn from Patrick and his expert guests how to attract more certainty into your business and your life. Now, here is your host, Patrick Laing.
Good morning and welcome to Finding Certainty. It's our favorite day of the week. We look forward all week to getting together here on the show, interviewing interesting guests and discussing this so important topic of certainty in our lives and in our businesses. It's interesting. We've done surveys where we did a Google search and looked up the word certainty, and there are tens of thousands of hits, even just within a 24-hour period. And yet it's interesting that we have also searched the word uncertainty, and there are hundreds of thousands of hits just in media, literally within a 24-hour period. It says a lot about how people are feeling out there, and not knowing what the future holds, and concerned about inflation, concerned about costs, concerned about the political climate, whatever the case might be. Well, today's guest is helping address that concern for businesses all across the country. We're pleased to have Mr. Skip Nelson with us today on Finding Certainty. Thanks for being here, Skip.
Good to see you, Patrick.
It's always a pleasure to get together with you, and I'm excited to have our listeners today hear about what you do and how it can be a benefit to their businesses. What Skip Nelson does is he is a profit analyst. He does a free profit consultation with his clients where he looks at their profitability, their marketing. He does an analysis or an assessment of their overall picture. In fact, he guarantees that he can come up with at least $50,000 in additional profit with no new cost, assuming they're doing at least $1 million in revenue each year. Obviously, if you're doing a couple $100,000, we said we probably guarantee $10,000 or more, but in most cases, it's quite a bit more. And we're going to get into the show today, how he does that, what goes into it. There's a lot of science. It's not just conjecture. It is an extraordinary offering. Now, I always start the show by sharing two reasons why I've invited this specific guest. First is exactly what I've been talking about. Skip is addressing a need that many business owners, if not all business owners, have. We hear this problem or this question shared with us often. How do I improve my bottom line? There's ways to do this. There's proven ways to do this. We're going to be talking about a few of them on the show today. But Skip's approach is, I think, one of the most extraordinary that we've seen. Second reason, though, I invited Skip to come is he doesn't just look at profitability. He also looks at marketing. Obviously, the two go together. You need the one to have the other. And some of his approaches, his coaching, the things that he's doing to help businesses are addressing this need as well, which is part and parcel with true bottom line profitability. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about both today. So Skip, again, thanks for being here. People refer to my show as a stroll down memory lane a little bit. We're going to kind of start out by talking about who you are and where you came from. Well, who is Skip Nelson? And what brought you to where you are today? Because I know, what you do and how you do it is a culmination of decades of experience and collecting not just the experience and the insights, but the data and the science or the technology that makes it possible. You have an extraordinary software we're going to be talking about. So let's jump in. I know you live in Minneapolis, or a suburb of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Your company is Business Breakthroughs. But where did you get started? Maybe tell us a little bit about your upbringing and your family and what brought you to where you are today.
Well, thanks, Patrick. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a big admirer of yours and know what Certainty Management does. We're speaking the same language and just about helping businesses make more money, be more efficient. And I was taken in the introduction. There were words like expert and interesting used, and I was really excited to see who your guest was going to be. But I guess that's me. So I'll try to be both. I'll try to be interesting and hopefully provide some level of expertise. But I got started in my entrepreneurial journey like many, shoveling driveways and mowing lawns as a kid. Really liked the idea, lemonade stands, whatever. I started early. And out of college, I decided with a business partner to start a business. We started a carpet cleaning business out of my parents' basement because we needed something low capital investment and something we could learn. And so we did that. We had a client that had water in their basement and asked us if we could handle that. And like any good entrepreneurs, we said, absolutely, having no idea what we were doing. Stumbled into that, started working with insurance companies, and started doing fire restoration. Also, we built a processing facility that we could handle complete, when people had severe damage, we could move all their stuff back and clean and deodorize it. So it was a fun business, built it from nothing, and got to be a national expert, consulted around the country. I've also been a trainer for much of my career, training business professionals all across the country in various areas of business. And got burned out after about 25 years of that. So I became a financial advisor, really enjoyed helping people secure their retirement. But all along, I've coached. My passion is small business. And I've really tried to help my experience in maybe saving some business owners from some of the mistakes that I've made. And so that's where Business Breakthroughs came from. And it's a passion of mine. There's so much sacrifice that small business owners make, sacrifice as far as time, missed holidays, worked evenings and weekends, fear, risk financially, that they deserve to have a good life. They deserve to take more vacations and be able to do cool stuff with their family and their kids or whatever. And that's my passion, is giving them that. And so that's how I got to be where I sit today.
You know, I'm glad you took it that direction, Skip, because I talk all the time with my COO, Victoria Foster, and our Chief of Admin, Jill McCauley, Andy Tenney, our SVP. We have this conversation all the time about how much goes on behind the scenes that our team members, I mean, we have associates all across the country, right? And they have no idea of how much goes on. We try to give them glimpses and update them. You know, I pulled another all-nighter last night. Sorry if I'm look a little tired, right? and yet, to your point, entrepreneurs, they pay the price, right? It is not an easy path to hoe, or a road to hoe, as they say, or a path to follow. And yet, all that sacrifice, all those hours, all those those expenses, those costs, those missing holidays, et cetera, they hopefully have a result that is worth it, right? But it doesn't always happen. There are many small businesses that fail. In fact, the majority of them don't last more than a year, 2 years, 3 years. If you've lasted 10 years as a business, you're an anomaly, right?
It's true.
And even those who last, many of those are not truly profitable. They're surviving, right? Yep. I heard a statistic recently that it was a very small percentage make more than 100,000 a year, right? You would know better than I do what that percentage is. But so before we get into how you're helping, why do you think they do it? What is it about this entrepreneurial slog that we're going through that people do it? I can share my opinion, but I'd love to hear yours, because you work with businesses every day all over the country. Why do they do it? If it's so difficult and there's such a high risk of failure, what's in it for them? I mean, what keeps them going?
It's a good question, Patrick. And I would say, I think there's different answers, because I know for me, when I started my business, I was just too stupid to know any better. You know, I started out of college and it was complete ignorance. We reveled in a very comfortable cushion of ignorance. A couple of college guys were just like, hey, let's start a business. And we did it. And we were naive to really understand, man, this is risky, and our risk was less, right? I'm at a different stage, a college kid starting a business. It's like if it goes belly up, it's like, oh, all right. You kind of shrug your shoulders and do something else. If you've got a family and a house and financial responsibilities and kids relying on you and college savings and all this stuff and retirement or whatever, it's a different story. And there's a significant more risk involved there as a married or person that has financial responsibility as one that doesn't. So I think there's that. I think there's also, and to me, that's something I want to dive into with the businesses that I work with is the why. Because if their why is, well, I want to have my own schedule and I want a big house and a fancy car, and I know that the people that own their businesses, that's how that's how they get. You're done, man. You're going to fail. I can just tell you, just save yourself the effort, because there isn't enough money, right, Patrick? There isn't enough money that can pay you what you have to go through frequently as an entrepreneur, right? For that risk, for the commitment that you need to make. And so if that's your motivation, that's not going to work. There isn't enough money. Yeah. No. And so for me, I think when it boils down, when I really dive down with these businesses, what they're looking for is freedom. Ultimately, now financially that can buy you freedom at a certain level, right? But that's really what they want. They want freedom to have time with their kids and their families and time to travel or whatever, but it's time and freedom. And so I think for a lot of businesses, that's what they're going for. Unfortunately, a lot of them never get there, right? As to your point, Patrick, they don't really end up making a lot of money, and they're kind of on the hamster wheel as they're working hard and they're running, but they don't get there. And that's one thing that I learned in business is that hard work isn't enough. You can work super hard, beating your head against a wall, and you're not going to get anywhere. Hard work's not enough. You have to work smart and really have a plan and goals and work toward that. Because I had way too many years where I worked really, really hard and I didn't get anywhere, or didn't get at least where I was hoping to go.
Well, it's you make a really good point. I agree with you. I think it's freedom that we want, and that takes on different forms, right? People have different definitions of that. Some people want to travel. Some people want to be home with their kids, spend more time with family, maybe just go fly fishing, right? But, it's, you hit on a good point. I want to go back for just a minute, because you talk about these, you're a young college student, you're just getting started. You're like, let's start a business, and how many roofers and window guys and dentists and others have just said, I want to start a business, and they have no concept of how much is going to have to go into that business. I mean, they might be really good at roofing, or really good at drywall, or really good at pulling teeth, right? But there's so much more that goes into a business with the accounting and the marketing and the SEO and everything else that has to happen. That's where I think people struggle. We help a lot of businesses with our company with profitability, and we're looking at cost reduction and tax credit recovery, benefits, et cetera, all designed to improve their bottom line. And these are areas that most companies are not very good at, right? They're not experts in insurance or digital marketing or tax credit recovery or whatever the case might be. So as you look at that, as you work with businesses, and we do the same, what do you think they're thinking? This might be an odd question, but are they just, as entrepreneurs dig into this, are they just ignorant to it? Do they just oblivious to it? Are they just overly optimistic? I think you have to be an entrepreneur. You have to have some faith in yourself and the opportunity. But is it that they're going into it blind, or they're just going into it bold? What do you think?
I think all of the above. And that's why I've been so impressed with Certainty Management and what you guys do, because you fill a void that a lot of businesses desperately need. And they may not even realize they need it until it's not working for whatever reason, right? And so I find that for a lot of businesses, to your point, Patrick, the carpenter is a good carpenter and he decides to start a remodeling company, or whatever the specific business. They're good at their thing. And so they think, well, since I'm good at this thing, I'm going to start a business doing the thing. But what they don't know about is the business of doing the thing. They don't know about, people go into consulting because they're good at a thing. And the thing that they don't realize is that a bigger part of doing your thing in consulting is getting your next gig, right? It isn't
For
about
sure.
your thing. Because if you can't market and sell, it doesn't matter how good you are at your thing. You're not going to have any things to do because nobody's going to call you. So it's all the stuff that is beyond their thing. It's sales, it's marketing, it's understanding profit and understanding business and personnel and hiring and firing and just all these other things that you stumble into the proverbial working in the business as opposed to on the business, that you're just kind of doing all this stuff and you're really not able to do what you do best. And,
That's right. Well,
I find it doesn't matter the industry, it's the same challenge.
Yeah, I totally agree. Your example of the hamster wheel is a great analogy, right? Because most entrepreneurs, I mean, there's lazy ones out there, right, who just don't do anything. But the majority of entrepreneurs, I believe, are working really hard. They're trying to make this successful. They're putting their blood and guts into it, piss and vinegar, as we say. And they're spinning their wheels, right? They're some of them are very successful. They've figured it out. A much larger percentage, I think it's even Pareto principle, 80% of them or better are struggling to some degree. Now, we know because over the years, as we've built our company, we've made lots of mistakes. We've fallen on our faces and gotten back up and gone down a path with a vendor, realized it wasn't a great relationship, had to backpedal. We've had to do that.
I can't personally identify with that, making mistakes, but
yeah,
talk more about that.
Every entrepreneur does that. Okay. So we both know, and we'll get into this with what you do with business breakthroughs, but I believe there are three secrets, let's say, three approaches or reminders that every entrepreneur needs to have to remember in order to be successful. One is you've got to put in the work, right? You're never going to get there if you're not putting in the time. I don't believe you have to work 100-hour weeks or neglect your family. I believe balance is part of it, but you do have to work. You have to have that work ethic. Secondly, I believe you have to surround yourself with experts that are better at things than what you are. I mean, I have people on my team that are far better at systems and accounting and marketing than I am. I have my skill sets and they have their skill sets. And so whether it's your team internally that you're building or bringing in experts like yourself who are much better at what you do than they are, we all have to do that as an entrepreneur. You cannot be an island. It takes a village, just like raising a child.
Yep.
And then third, in fact, I'll hold off on the third because I'm going to share it at the end. I think it's a really important reminder and it can make all the difference. Let's get into a little bit about how you went from your first adventure as a your carpet cleaning company, and then you got into actually consulting in that industry, fire restoration. That's a big industry, right? Eventually financial planner. What took you from there, from that multiple years, several decades of experience, to getting into working with business breakthroughs and the profit acceleration software? What was the transition there? I think it'd be great for the listener to hear.
Some might say it's ADD, just a shiny object. I just kind of go. But from the restoration business, I just kind of got burned out, on call 24 hours a day, even though you just are, and even though I had staff, I wasn't actually going out in the field, but I wanted to be aware and I wanted to make sure it got handled properly. And so if it was 3 a.m, I was at least aware and awake and that's the way I wanted it. I didn't want to hand that off completely. So anyway, burned out there. And then it was just, now what? What do I want to do? And help, again, financially helping people secure their retirement and all. I see it too often with hard work and kind of get there. And it's like, I guess we really don't have enough. And so that was really a privilege to help people in that journey. getting into the coaching, and again, I've coached all along to some level. The thing that I found, and when we had the restoration business, we had a friend who had started a consulting company and asked if we would help, if we wanted to like take a client or two. And we thought, gee, that'd be kind of fun just to get into another restoration company in another state and see how they operate and learn from them and they learn from us. And the thing that we found, and I never forgot this, when we went into somebody else's business, it was very easy to see that's not working. That person's got to go. It was black and white. But we'd get back to our own business that's right here that we're emotionally invested in, and we know about Sally and her challenges in her person or whatever. We're not a lot of times able to make good objective decisions. And we didn't see it. And so we learned that even though we were national experts in our industry, that we need to hire a coach to coach us in our business. Because to your point, Patrick, it's so important to bring in experts that have an expertise that you don't have, but also to bring in experts that have a perspective that you don't have. And that is exactly one of my favorite sayings about coaching is it's very hard to read the label from inside the jar. And I found that in a business, I was an expert. I knew all about the business. I was good. People, but when it's right here and it's my business and I'm inside the jar, I couldn't see it. So I needed to bring in somebody from the outside to offer that perspective. And I see that's a mistake a lot of business people make, is that they either don't realize they need to bring in expertise that they don't have. That's a threat. It's a sign of weakness if they admit they don't know something or whatever. And that's just stupid, because nobody's expert at everything. And so the most important thing that business people need to do is know what they're good at, but probably more importantly is know what they're not good at and supplement that with people that are. It'll save you a ton of hassle. And that's, your company comes in. I mean, you can fill in a lot of that stuff that's critical and let them focus on the stuff. Getting back to the 80-20 rule, I think that's another critical element that people are just, again, beating their head against the wall. But you need to understand that, 20% of your effort's going to account for 80% of your business and 80% of your profit, and really understanding what's the 20%, and focus your time there and not on the 80 that's wasting it.
Right. One of my favorite books is by a guy named Dan Martell. It's called Buy Back Your Time. Excellent book. Highly recommend it if
I'm gonna write
you're
that
listening
down.
Or if you haven't read it. Buy Back Your Time. And he talks about how an entrepreneur, a business owner who arrives at freedom, arrives at that ideal life, is spending their time on what they are good at and what they enjoy, and not spending any time on all the other things that they're not good at or that they don't enjoy, right? That's the objective. That's the goal. You might love sales, but you're spending all your time in admin and vendor relationships and customers sort of putting out fires, and you're miserable, right? Because you're not spending your time where you're really good and really happy. So I love that reminder. One of the points you made that I think is really important is that you don't have to know everything. And yet the reason many people are resistant, many business owners, is it's a pride thing, right? It's ego. They're embarrassed to admit they don't have all the answers. They feel like they have to. And I think it's a message that entrepreneurs have got to hear and embrace, is it's okay. It's like counseling, right? Mental health is going through an evolution where it's starting to be acceptable, even in African American males and others that have been very resistant to mental health, to admitting they need help, right? Mm-hmm. All of us. It's thank goodness, right? It's going through a metamorphosis where people are realizing it's okay for me to admit that I need help, that I need someone to talk to. I need the help of an expert, a counselor, a therapist. It's not a stigma as much as it used to be. There's still a little bit of that, but thank goodness it's evolving, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a good analogy of having a coach, having an expert, having a good accountant, things like that you would think are a no-brainer. And yet so many business owners have been slow to respond or resistant to that change, whether it's because of ego, it's because of, fear, or Maybe it's cost. They're like, I can't afford to hire a virtual assistant that could handle all my emails, my calendar, my schedule.
Yeah.
You can't afford not to invest
Yeah.
in those things. And once you do and you realize the time freedom it gives you, the benefits that it provides, you think, man, why did I wait so long? Right?
How many
I'm sure
times have
I
you
know
heard
you
that,
agree. I know
Patrick?
you agree, right?
I've heard it a gazillion times. Almost guaranteed that if somebody, whether it's waiting to hire a virtual assistant or an assistant or, some type of help, and they put it off, well, it's money, waiting for the perfect time, which never comes. And they finally bite the bullet and do it. And almost every time I hear, man, I wish I had done that earlier.
Well, it's funny because it is an investment in most cases to hire an expert to come in and help. What's great about yours, what's great about what we do is we get paid upon results. I mean, you have a fee, you do a free assessment, and then there's a fee to get started. But you show them in that very first assessment that you're going to more than pay for your the cost of investing in you, right? Many times over.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, you guarantee, as I said at the beginning, guarantee at least $50,000 or more in profit with no new costs, right? That's no marketing costs. You're not going to have to, go take out ads or anything like that. They can do that. That's one of the approaches, but there are other ways to improve profitability that are the low-hanging fruit. They're sitting there waiting to be capitalized on, which we'll get into in more detail as we go along here about how you do that. But and another question I think a lot of people have is I know they're resistant. There are business owners out there who could so use the help of someone like you, someone like us, and other experts out there. And yet, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said they're afraid, right? We talk to companies. I'll give you a perfect example. Our very first product line that we introduced is a service that will come in and analyze printer and copier contracts. This is a multi-billion-dollar arena. It's about as exciting as watching paint dry, but it is a big space.
But God bless you for doing that, because holy smokes, what a need that is. And you think it's unbelievable. And people have no knowledge. And this expertise that you bring in that area is massive. So bravo.
Well, and I joke that it's about as exciting as watching paint dry, right? But you're absolutely right. It's an unregulated industry. There's no checks or balances. Most customers are getting taken to the cleaners. But you know that one of the biggest hurdles we run into is with an IT director or a CFO or someone, maybe a purchaser that we're dealing with. And they're resistant to us doing the work because they're afraid it's going to make them look bad. Like they haven't been doing their job. And I'm like, this is not your expertise. Right? This is not your space. Don't feel bad. You're going to look like a hero for bringing us in to help you. And then we cut their costs in half and save them hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions. And, it's just a good example of this trepidation, right? If I bring in an expert, am I going to look bad? Is it going to make me look stupid? Anyway, I'm sure you deal with that. I mean, has that been your experience as well, or am I just preaching to the choir?
No, 100%. We all the time. It a lot of times because a lot of times entrepreneurs are, they're go-getter type people, and they have some level of ego and
they're proud, they're confident, right?
Yeah. But it can also choke them off because they think they have to do it all themselves, and they think they have to have all the knowledge, and any admitting that they don't is somehow a weakness when in fact it's a strength. You have to identify what you are not good at, either not able to do or just not as fast at doing or whatever, not efficient, and do something else. The fear I find is so prevalent. One of the 12 strategies that I talk about, the baseline strategies as far as having the biggest effect on improving profit, is increasing prices. And because most companies are afraid to do it. And it's not a well-founded fear. I go back to in my own carpet cleaning business. I'm a dumb college kid and stuff, but we started cleaning carpets charging 22 cents a square foot in 1987, because I'm old. In 1987. You know what we were charging a decade later?
What's that?
Same amount.
Oh, geez.
Same amount, 22 cents a square foot. Why? Because we were mortified that if we increased our prices, we'd lose all our customers. Carpet cleaning was a pretty,
It's a competitive arena, I know.
Very competitive and kind of a commodity, right? You just shop based on price. And that goes into a whole other bunch of strategies as far as establishing, a market dominating position and a compelling offer and other ways to separate yourself, which most businesses don't do well. And so if they don't do that, it just automatically falls back to price, right? And you lose. But that's, for us, it was that we were afraid to increase prices because of the effect. And I find a lot of times fear prevents us from doing things that we should do. And you got to get over that, because on the other side, there's the things that are going to really help your business.
100%. Well, we're already at our break. We're visiting with Skip Nelson. He's the owner of Business Breakthroughs. He's an author. We'll talk a little bit about your book. I want to make a comment about raising price, but I'm going to do it after the break. So let's go to break real quick. Let our advertisers look at you. You can look at them. We'll be right back, though, here on Finding Certainty on Voice America Business. All right, we're clear. We're still recording on the YouTube, Skip.
All right, so I'll try not to swear.
My microphone here was covering the chat, so I didn't see him say we were ready for break. So we probably went over a little bit. It's not the end of the world, but it's funny because I look at all of our entrepreneurial experiences. Right, we start out stupid, right? And then we start getting into some little bit of success, maybe, but we keep making mistakes, and it isn't until we understand, I need some help here. I need some consultants, some experts. I need a team. I need feedback. I love your analogy of you can't read the label from inside the jar. That's great. I've never heard that before. And that's a great metaphor. I think I'm going to steal it. We'll have to start using it. It's great. It's a great analogy, but it's so true, right? We're too close to it. I think it's partly ego, it's partly fear, and it's partly just we're so close to it. And we're so busy that how do we stop and make assessment? How do we stop and make changes if we, one, don't know how to, and two, don't have the time to, and three, we're afraid to? I mean, it's almost
no question.
You're listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Laing. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
Welcome back to Finding Certainty. This is Patrick Laing, and I'm visiting with Skip Nelson. He's a good friend of ours, a colleague of ours. He's actually the very first vendor that we are coaching our team to introduce our clients to before we do anything else. As we've come to learn about more and more about what Skip does and how he does it, we've just been duly impressed. And when you can tell a customer, as long as they're doing at least $1 million in revenue a year, that you can guarantee them another $50,000 in profit with no new costs, no new marketing costs, etc. That's a pretty strong statement. The great thing is that statement is backed up by data, by technology, by thousands and thousands of case studies done with companies all over the world. We're going to talk about that as we go along here. But just before the break, we were talking about raising costs. And I just want to make a plug for that, Skip. I was invited to be the sales manager for a remodeling firm in Portland, Oregon. We took it in 2007 from $3.5 million to $7.5 million the next year, to $15.8 million, to $20 million. Eventually, I got promoted to, my boss was promoted to be the VP of sales, and I was promoted as the national sales trainer. And we traveled around the world, around the country, teaching different offices to do what we'd done. We became the #1 branch in the country out of 65 offices. I mean, literally the most common question we got from corporate is, what the hell are you guys doing out there? Right? Well, one of his most memorable improvements was raising price. He was adamant. Our general manager, who was one of the finest GMs I've ever worked with, by the name of Roy Bletko, he believed in raising price and charging what you were worth. And we did rain gutter. We did a clog-free rain gutter called Leaf Guard, which you may have heard of. And we did roofing and gutters and so forth. But we were selling rain gutters for $6,000 a house on average. They were very expensive, right? But that was just one of the strategies. But it was one of those that got us to those levels, was increasing the price while increasing the value, increasing the service, and so forth and so on. So I just want to make that plug because I completely agree with you. It's a critical piece of this. But what's interesting, and you can talk about this in more detail, but what's interesting is that you don't have to make major changes to improve profit dramatically. You talk a lot about incremental changes. Mm-hmm. A little change here can have a big effect when it drops to the bottom line. We saw that, right? We were turning a lot of heads, and it wasn't just because of sales. It was about profitability, because we also did things that dramatically improved our bottom line. So maybe you can talk a little bit about your software, the profit acceleration software, and how it came about, because I think the backstory of that leading up to what you're doing and how you're doing is really important. Speaking of incremental changes, right?
Yeah. Well, regarding the incremental changes, I think that's a really important concept in the workshops, the education workshops I do. I really hammer on that, because a lot of times we're looking for the home run, right? As a financial advisor, we want to win the lottery or want to get some big investment that's just going to blow the door. And that would be lovely if we could get that, but it's not necessary to get to where we want to go as far as massive.
And it's not
profit.
Likely. Right, Skip? It's not likely.
100%.
Right?
You're right, Patrick. It is not likely, but it isn't necessary. But we need to just look in what the software allows me to do is to go in and identify areas, hidden profit centers in every business where if we can just increase and improve 5% or 6% or 10%, or just whatever, just an incremental improvement, it adds up to a massive result. I've got a question for your listeners. Would you rather have a penny doubled every day for 30 days, or I got a bag here for you of $1 million? So would you rather have a penny doubled every day for 30 days? So first day 1, then 2, then 4, then, for 30 days, or $1 million? Now, a lot of people are going to say, I'll take the $1 million. It's just a penny doubled every day. But Einstein talked about a concept called compounding. And, he said it was the most powerful force in the universe. The eighth wonder of the world is what Einstein said about compounding.
That's right.
And with that concept, that the software and what I applied to business of looking for those small incremental changes, by doubling that penny every day, at the end of 30 days, you have $5.3 million. And it seems impossible. Google it. It is absolutely true. And it's kind of like business, right? At the beginning, you're kind of working, and you don't see a lot of progress. And then hopefully you get to the point where it kind of starts, you find your rhythm and it starts to grow. And then, so day 1 to day 2, you go from 1 penny to 2 pennies, big deal. But day 30 to day 31, you go from 5.3 million to 10.6, right? That's where we want to get. But it's just all about small incremental change. You ask about the software, Patrick, and it's something that I came upon that is the most astonishing business software I've ever seen. Because when I coached, I was able to offer my opinion, and I've got 25 years of experience and I think some good perspective, but it was opinion, and I wanted more data. And so I found a company that put together this profit acceleration software. They're in 45 countries around the world, and they looked at every business known, plumber, financial advisor, consultant, interior designer, landscaper, every business you can imagine all over the world. So they have astonishing data. And they used that data and they wanted to figure out really 3 things. 1, what activities generate the most amount of profit? 2, what did it as quickly as possible, and 3, what did it without having to spend anything additional on marketing and advertising. That was kind of what they wanted to figure out in all these businesses. And what the data showed is they came up with 12 baseline strategies that accomplished just that. And in fact, those strategies morph into 40 strategies. But that's too much. I mean, there's a lot of meat in just the 12, and that's really where we need to start, because most businesses either haven't done them or haven't done them well. And so it's provided a framework where I can go in and ask the business owner just a few questions and literally be able to put together a structured plan of attack of exactly how to implement the strategies in what order, because the software will say, in that business, in that industry, should start here, number 1, and then here, number 2, and then here, number 3. So literally put together a plan of maximizing profit. And it's unlike anything I've ever seen. And the results, it's just a joy to me, because I can see these astonishing results for these business owners that deserve it.
I love that it's based on data, right? You can't argue with data. That's why it's such a big business these days. They say Amazon, Tesla, these enormous companies, they're as much data collection companies as anything. They say you drive a Tesla, it's collecting data all the time. Where did you go for breakfast? Which grocery store do you shop at? I mean, how often do you go through the car wash? I mean, it's collecting data all the time. I mean, you may not like to hear that, but it's true, right? The thing about data is, again, you're not just guessing. It's not just opinion, right? It's based on fact, and not just fact, but the algorithms are based on thousands and thousands of examples. I think it's a really important insight, really important point, because as you meet with customers, you can be supremely confident in what you are presenting to them. It's, again, not just gospel according to Skip, right? It is based on millions of data points from all over the world even. That's powerful.
And the software itself does 497 million weighted algorithmic sequences in its analysis.
That's incredible.
It's unlike anything I've ever seen. So again, it's not just Skip's opinion, it's data. And that's what makes it so powerful.
Yeah, maybe you can walk the listener through the process of what happens when they meet with you, what happens first, second, third. Just kind of give them an idea, 10,000-foot view of their experience if they were to meet with you and go through this process.
Sure. Well, the process is kind of fun, and I don't think it's just because I'm a kind of a dork that way, but it really is, I think, and it's relatively basic. And this kind of brings up another point. The numbers are relatively basic. To do a profit acceleration analysis for a business, really all I need is their annual revenue, their gross margin percentage, and their net margin percentage. And with those 3 financial data points, I will ask them more specific questions about individual strategies. And then the software will take that information and generate some really cool stuff. And so I typically get together, like I said, there's 12 baseline strategies. And usually for an initial analysis, the one that I will do for your listeners, if they're interested, free of charge. But we'll typically pick 2 or 3 of the strategies, and I'll ask them questions about that. I'll put in the data based on that, and then the software will generate a report, and it will detail what order it thinks that those strategies should be implemented, and I'll ask the business owner, based on kind of what we talk about, what profit impact do you think that'll have on your business? And I typically go low. They'll think, geez, I don't know, 40, 50%. I'll say, well, how about 10 or whatever? I want to keep it really, really low. Right. I always like to underpromise and overdeliver. And, but just by doing that, I have found, I would say 97% of the analysis that I've done of businesses, I have found the $50,000 to $100,000 97% of the time. And that's not just in businesses under $1 million. Not all are over
50 to 100. 50 to 100. Is that what you said?
$50,000 to $100,000, 97% of the time.
That's incredible. Yep. Even in smaller businesses.
Yep.
Because I know we always share.
The smaller they get, it can be more challenging. Then we're looking more at a
Right.
percentage of what you're doing, but even there, in some of the smaller businesses at, $500,000 or whatever, that we can still a lot of times do it. And the other thing that I like about the software that for me is it's all about ROI, right? Return on investment. Because I had too many times as a business owner where I'd think, oh, I need more clients, I need more leads, and so I'm gonna do a mailing, and so I buy a zip code and target the zip code and come up with this whatever and spend all this money, and it generates more clients, but I don't make any more money. And it was so frustrating to me. And so the software, literally, when I go through the client, we'll lay it out, and I'll more than cover my fee if it makes sense for us to work together before we even start, because that's all that matters to me. It's all about return on investment. And if you're not making many times more with the coach or the consultant or whatever that you're working with, it's not worth it.
Well, you're exactly right. It all comes down to ROI. And that's the question most businesses are going to ask is, what's it going to cost me? And how quick can I make it back? And I've seen your software. I love how you can say, well, let's just bump this by 1%. Maybe it's cost reduction or increasing prices. Or what if we just affected it by 2%? Well, you see a 10% increase to profit that drops to the bottom line. I mean, it's incredible. And I love how you can tweak a number. You can talk with the clients. You can talk through what their comfort level is, what their thoughts are, share with them some ideas, and they're seeing it right in front of them translate to a bigger and bigger profitability. Maybe they were only profiting, they're doing $1 million, but they're only profiting $50,000. And in one conversation, you can show them, well, we could take this to 250 right, in no time, right? And it doesn't take major implementation or changes to do it. These are incremental, even almost microscopic changes that are translating to significant bottom line results. I mean, it's very impressive, Skip.
Thank you.
I've got to say, our team has kind of been blown away by him.
Yeah, and as was I. I mean, I'd never seen anything like it. It's the most powerful business growth software I've ever seen, and it does things that I've never seen. And it's a wonderful tool. Like I said, I get to be the beneficiary of seeing the results, and it's a thrill for me because I blow the doors off these business owners when we put together a plan and they see results, relatively quickly. And
that's what they want, right? They want a plan, right? They want we call it a roadmap, right? We're actually doing a pretty major overhaul to our website right now, and we're building it around this theme of a roadmap. You're on a journey. Where do you want to get? What's your destination, your goal, and how can we help you get there? And I'm a systems manager. I'm a big believer in implementing systems that can then be cookie cuttered, no matter the industry or the business owner. That's exactly what you do, right? It's a system that it's all really plug and play. It's adaptable, it's customizable to each business, but we both know that principles don't change whether you're a dentist or a roofer or a farmer. The principles of business are consistent. You can implement a system that applies those principles and those approaches, and while there's maybe a little bit of adaptation, it's consistent. It doesn't matter which industry you're in. That's why our business works so well, because I can help reduce a customer's costs and recover tax credits for them, give them better benefits, and do so no matter what they do, right? Just as you do. So it's a really exciting arena, and what you do, it's such a great compliment to us. We love it, and it's a treat really working with you guys because we're so on the same page as far as what we're trying to ultimately accomplish, right? And just more tools to do it. And I'm sure you've never heard this, Patrick, that might work in that other business, but it's not going to work in mine. Everybody thinks their business is so unique and so different. And I got news for you. It's not. It's not, right?
To your point, the principles in general are agnostic. They work in every business, and there are tweaks certainly, and that's what you and I can help them with, right? To help with the
Sure.
tweaks, but the basic concepts apply to any business, and will have massive results in any business if they're applied properly. And that's
Right.
the other thing I would say is there, I don't mean to be flippant about this. I mean, the baseline strategies that I talk about in the software and in my book, but it's like a recipe. I mean, they are basic and they do work, but they need to be applied properly and in the right order. Because you can't bake a cake and put the eggs in the flour and put it in the oven, then take it out and then put more in. I mean, it's got to be done in the right order or it's not
Right.
going to work. And that's the other thing that the software and that coaches, I think, can help is to make sure that we're maximizing the effort. So we put all the ingredients together, but it gets done in the right order to maximize the results, the biggest results possible as quickly as possible.
Well, I always say this, and I think it's an important point, is if you could do this in your business, why wouldn't you want to? If you can save time, save money, improve your bottom line, have a better quality of life, why in the world would you not want to at least take a look at it? And we say that all the time. We get paid on results. Yep. Give us a chance. I said, start us with one customer or one project and let us show you what we're capable of. You do your free assessment, you show they get a lot of value out of that free initial assessment. Mm-hmm. And then you offer your coaching. There's DIY things you can teach them how to do. You've got your book, et cetera, et cetera. Can you explain just in 60 seconds? We are approaching the end of the show, but just in 60 seconds, what do you look at or how do you help them from a marketing standpoint? And then I know you have an offer for the listeners, and then we're going to be out of time here. So
sure. Well, boy, time's flown by.
It does.
It's been a lot of fun, but yeah, I would say for most businesses, I find, and I certainly talk about this in the book, that most businesses as a baseline the first thing they want is more leads. I need more customers. And while that's important, there's a lot of other things that need, from a profit standpoint, that need to be in line that will help you maximize your profit that have nothing to do with getting more customers. It's maximizing kind of what we're already doing kind of a thing. And so I think a lot of businesses make the mistake of just focusing, I need more customers, and they're not doing the most with what they've already got. And so that's what I focus on a lot, is maximizing that, because it's critical that we make sure that most businesses have a compelling offer. What's your offer? And most businesses either don't have one or it's awful. A roofer, free roofing inspection, or a financial advisor, free retirement plan. I mean, it's the same as everybody, right? And so I got news for you. If you look at your competitors and they're offering the same offer that you do, it's not compelling. Right. What can you offer that is different, that is unique, that's going to make your ideal client stand up and say, I have to have that? That's a compelling offer. And so I help them develop that. And also the unique selling proposition, right? Or what I call a market dominating position really is that, but really focus more on what is in your clients' minds that's important to them. Because a lot of times I see businesses that put something together that is what they think is most important. We need to understand inside of our clients' heads, they have a problem that they don't want, and they want a result or solution that they don't have. And we need to understand what that is and then build the unique selling proposition around that.
That's right.
And those type of things are very powerful because they're very rare. That most businesses either don't do them or they don't do them well.
So, Skip, I know you have an offer for your free book. Do you mind mentioning that before? And then
absolutely. My first book, Your Business Breakthrough, is really goes through the 12 strategies that we've referenced, that the software goes through, and that I use as a baseline to find profit for the businesses that I work with. And any of your listeners can go to snbusinessbreakthroughs.com. That's snbusinessbreakthroughs.com. And you can get a free copy of this book that I think you will really enjoy. And you can certainly reach out to me if you have questions, but it'll be a good starting point. And I think hopefully it will help you find the profits that you richly deserve.
I appreciate you being on the show today. This is such an important topic. A lot of businesses out there some are doing well. They're doing some things right? But they need help. And that's okay. We all do. You're not alone. I need help. I think I should probably, have you go through it with us. We've shared it with our clients, but I actually haven't taken you through it in our company, and I think we should. And so
Sure.
let's schedule that. I think there's a lot of merit in what you're doing, Skip. We appreciate you, not just what you're doing, but how you're doing it, the person you are, the feedback you give, the support you give to our clients. It's invaluable. And so,
coming from you, that's high praise, Patrick. I admire you, and I appreciate your kind words. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for being on our show today. If you're listening, certainty is out there. You can find it. We can help. Skip can help. If you have questions and would like to get together with Skip for a free analysis, reach out to us at certaintyteam.com or call 888-684-3122. Have a great weekend, everybody. We wish you the very best. All right. We're still recording on the YouTube. So was there anything else that you would want to add? Anything we glossed over or missed, Skip? How we say if they watch the YouTube, they get a little bit extra. So.
Yeah. Well, here's the real secret sauce. I'm
for all you YouTubers, this is the gold button.
Just for the YouTubers. I'm trying to think of anything in particular. I would just say that the incremental change is a big deal, and a lot of times that gets missed. That it doesn't take, some big earth-shattering thing. And the other thing I would say that most business owners, including myself, when I first started, is we don't understand the numbers. We don't understand our numbers. Your accountant or your bookkeeper should be your best buddy as a business owner, because that's your scorecard of how you're doing, not just at tax time once a year, but you should be chatting with them quarterly, if not every month. Right. And buy them a cup of coffee. They'll explain the numbers to you. But I find that people don't get their numbers. And so when we're talking about small incremental change, they think, well, that's no big deal. If we go from a 20 to 30% effect, a lot of people say, well, that's just 10%. That's not any big deal. It's not 10%. It's 50%. You go from 20 to 22, that's not 2%, that's 10%. And 20 to 24 is 20, and 20 to 26 is 30, and 40 and 50, right? And so a lot of times we either don't know our numbers, or the numbers we think we know, we don't really know. And so
we don't understand them.
It's so critical.
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's so much that goes into this. We started this whole show out talking about us as dumb college students trying to figure out how to do a business. And we kind of, ask the question, why do we do it? Right? Well, I think we do it because we want more. We want more time. We want more money. We want more free. We want to be the boss, and all those things are admirable. And that's why we do it. Right? If we can enter into it with an open mind and understanding the challenges that are going to come, and understanding up front, long before we make all the mistakes, that we are going to need help, I think we can be much more successful much more quickly. We can all get there. Just how long do you want it to take you to get there, right?
Yep.
One of the biggest benefits of hiring professionals and coaches like yourself and surrounding yourself with a good team is accelerating your learning curve and creating shortcuts. If you don't have to make the same mistakes, you can learn from the mistakes of someone like you, Skip, or someone like me, and not have to make the same ones. It's like us parenting our kids. We want them to do even better than we did, and we want them to do it without as much pain, right?
Yes. So true. And boy, some of it, I graduated in the half of the class that made the upper half possible. So luckily my wife's pretty bright, so I think our kids have a chance. But it's true. We just need to reach out and be willing to reach out for help. It's there. Mm-hmm. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. And you're not in this alone. There's great resources out there, and just make sure you reach out for them, because they will cut down your learning curve, to your point, Patrick, massively. That's win-win.
There's brilliant authors out there you can read. There's great systems you can implement. there's shysters. You've got to watch out. You got to look at reviews, things like that. But, it comes back to my third point. I started the show by saying you've got to do these three things, right? First, you've got to work hard. Two, you've got to surround yourself with the experts in the team that will help you. But the third point I wanted to make, and I said I'd share it at the end here. So here you are, YouTubers. You got the extra. The radio show did not get it. Third is you have got to continue to improve. Continue to ask yourself the question, what else can we do? How else can we make this better? Hey, we make a little bit of extra money. We don't go blow it on a boat. Maybe we reinvest it into another coach, a social media expert, a better accountant, whatever the case might be. Yep. You are reinvesting. You've got to continue to reinvest both your time and your money and your effort and continue to get better. If you do that, pretty soon you're going to get to a point where there is enough extra that you can go buy that boat if you want to, or take that extra vacation, or, you're not worried about retirement because you have so much coming in, residuals and savings, and the debt's paid off. And that's the goal of every entrepreneur. I do recommend to stay balanced through it all. Nobody ever said they wish they spent more time at the office, as they say, on their deathbed. Don't neglect your kids. Don't neglect your loved ones. Try to be balanced while you do it. But keep evolving, keep improving, keep growing. I look at 90-year-olds. In fact, I just talked to a customer yesterday, and the owner of their company is 91 years old. He owns several car dealers in town, 3 different casinos, and he's in the office every single day. He goes by the casino, one of the casinos we were at, talking to the owner there, or the GM. Says he's in here twice a week, just coming through, visiting the employees, saying hi, checking in on it. He's 91 years old. We know who his why is, right?
I mean, but you're curious, you're learning. I had a gal, I did a workshop 2 weeks ago, and I had a woman who was 97 at the workshop, front and center, taking notes. I mean,
I love that.
But she's like the 91-year-old, right? But it's like curious, wanting to learn, expand their knowledge, and that's what keeps
that's
you
their
young.
Why.
And
right? That's their why. I mean, some people want to retire and play golf, and others they don't want to stop. They love what they're doing, and they just want to do it till they die, right? And more power to them. That's me. I want a little bit of balance. I'd like to have a little bit of free time someday, and probably not work forever. But I don't think I'll ever completely extricate myself from the business either. Maybe we're on the board now instead of the C-suite. We get together once a quarter. In fact, I was just joking with Victoria the other day. I said, I see a day where you and I are just on the board. We're meeting in Ibiza one quarter and Rome the next quarter. And, and that's what we're doing.
It's about choice.
We're still involved.
Having the option of choice.
Having that freedom that you talked about, right? That's the goal. So, if you missed it before, the website to get Skip's free book is snbusinessbreakthroughs.com. That's S like Skip, N like Nelson, businessbreakthroughs, plural.com. Is that right?
That's it.
All right. Well, I again, thank you for being on the call. Thanks for all you're doing for us. As I said, as we've kind of understand it better, we are now promoting it as the first offering to every client. I rearranged our entire calculator, and I'll show it to you after we sign off here. But you're the first thing, and because we had it further down in the kind of the efficiency section, but I said, let's do this first because it's going to start those conversations and help the client understand the big picture a little bit better, the value of those incremental changes, and we can implement below as we go. So it's good stuff, man. We're excited about what's happening. So
me too.
All right. Well, appreciate you. And thanks for being on the call. Thanks for listening in. If you're still with us here on the YouTube version, a lot of people like watching instead of listening. Don't know why. I don't know. Skip's a little bit better looking than I am, but I think people like seeing the facial.
There's no question about
that. That's what I say all the time. Yeah, for sure. But anyway, have a great weekend, and Thank you for being with us. We'll see you next week. If we don't talk to you, have a great Thanksgiving as well. Take care.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode of Finding Certainty. We hope you've gained some more insight into how to create more certainty in your own business or nonprofit. Join us next week for another taste of the certainty experience. Until then, we wish you greater certainty in all that you do.